So just more um, texts about the Christian views on Gnostic practices. And it really is the case that if you take even 5 minutes to understand the difference between Christianity being as close to the words of Christ as possible, and the ascetics, i.e. the Gnostics, you only need 5 minutes to prove it to yourself, which makes it all the more sad that there are so many millions of dupes that just fall prey to Masonic schemes. So, what is the Christian view of asceticism / monasticism? Answer. Asceticism and monasticism are two religious disciplines designed to de-emphasize the pleasures of the world so the practitioner can concentrate on the spiritual life. Both asceticism and monasticism have been adopted by worshippers of various faiths. In general, asceticism is the practice of strict self-denial as a means of attaining a higher spiritual plane. Now, to link that to what the Gnostics say, they have this circular logic, or this run of circular thinking, where this self-denial is where they will say all of your thoughts and all of your likes and dislikes are nothing to do with yourself and are merely earthly worries, and therefore you must deny all of those as a means of attaining your real self, which is your higher spiritual plane. Now, this self-denial is so contrary to what it teaches in Christianity, and yet, since they are wise in their own mind, they absolutely cannot give way to this realization. How they think they are finding the self, but really all they are doing is denying the self. But because they believe themselves wise, they are now blind to this. So monasticism is the state of being secluded from the world in order to fulfill religious vows. While most monks are ascetic, ascetics do not have to be monks. So they hide themselves away in the shadows, and then they say, now we are perfect. Now we have found the light. We found it in the shadows. Okay. Asceticism comes from the Greek word ascesis, meaning exercise, training, practice. Ascetics renounce worldly pleasures that distract from spiritual growth and enlightenment, and live a life of abstinence, austerity, and extreme self-denial. Asceticism is common in Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Judaism, and Islam. Notice Christianity is not present. Asceticism is not to be confused with Stoicism. Stoics believed that holiness can reside only in the spiritual realm, and all physical matter is evil. Ascetics do not necessarily believe that the flesh is evil, but they do go to great lengths to deny the flesh in order to transform the mind or free the spirit. Historically, asceticism has involved fasting, exposing oneself to heat or cold, the pillars, sleep deprivation, flagellation, and even self-mutilation. Many of the Eastern practices. Asceticism is usually associated with monks, priests, and yogis. The voluntary Nazarite vow could be seen as a mild form of asceticism. People of the Old Testament who took the vow consecrated themselves to God and refrained from drinking wine and cutting their hair. That's the Orthodox Judaism, isn't it? Modern Christian ascetics use passages such as 1 Peter 2:11 and 1 Corinthians 9:27 to support their lifestyle, and they exhibit their austerity in different ways. Some choose to be celibate, others practice religious disciplines such as meditation, keeping vigil and fasting. Monasticism is similar to asceticism, but with a slightly different focus. Whereas ascetics practice extreme self-denial, monks seclude themselves from all earthly influences in an attempt to live a godly life and to keep their personal religious vows. Christian monasticism is based on an extreme interpretation of Jesus' teachings on perfection, celibacy, and poverty. Monks and nuns attempt to control their environments and surround themselves with like-minded devotees. And where none are found, they will brainwash people to follow them. Many followers of Eastern religions also practice monasticism, the Buddhist monk perhaps being the most recognizable. However, the real conception of the monk wasn't very marketable, so they had to kind of change it into the whole Shaolin Chi Master fucking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon thing to try and spice it up, because Gnosticism wasn't quite as marketable as they wanted it to be. Christian monasticism draws from the influence of Judaic tradition. Is it Essene or Essene? A Jewish mystical sect. So once again, I tell you, the mystery religions predate Christianity. And when Christ came, he denounced all of it. So for you who say, I am a follower of Jesus, now here are some spicy mysteries, you're wrong. They were as devout as the Pharisees, but lived in isolation, often in caves in the wilderness. It's possible that John the Baptist was an Essene, and many scholars believe the Dead Sea Scrolls were written by Essenes. Monasticism in Christianity became popular during the time of Constantine. With the government's endorsement of Christianity, many believers found it more difficult to live a godly lifestyle. So here we see, as with today, the orthodoxy which the government instates, where it makes a straw man of the real thing, turns people to Gnostic practices, where they believe that the Gnostic is the true emanation of Christianity, and that the Christianity they've come to know is simply a government plot or a papal dictatorship. But this is a trick, since the Masons and the occultists and all of their minions infiltrate churches and create straw men and push people into ascetic and monastic practices. Nothing has changed in that regard. Some of them turned their backs on society and fled to the desert, where they believed that quietude and self-induced hardship would make following Jesus easier, even though he said, my yoke is light. Today, most Western monks and nuns are Catholic, although there is a movement among Protestants for individuals and families to live communally. But here is the crux of the matter. Followers of Christ are told to deny self, but asceticism takes this command to an extreme. The Bible never suggests that a Christian should The Bible never suggests that a Christian should purposely seek out discomfort or pain. On the contrary, God has richly blessed us with everything for our enjoyment. The Bible warns of those who forbid people to marry and order them to abstain from certain foods, as we see today with the veganism and the MGTOW and feminism, and all of that is all being pushed by these ascetics and these Gnostics that are just occultists. And they all believe the same thing, and they've all created a straw man of the real Christianity in order to push you into Gnosticism, because they know that you want to rebel, and they play on your emotion by making you believe that you are intelligent in some way for breaking from the mould, from breaking from the straw man they created, and fooling you into following Gnosticism. Thus, it is erroneous to believe that celibates who abstain from certain foods are more holy than other people. We are under grace, not under the law. Therefore, the Christian does not live by a set of rules, but by the leading of the Holy Spirit. Christ has set us free. In many cases, the ascetic practices of self-denial in order to earn God's favour or somehow purge himself from sin. This shows a misunderstanding of grace. No amount of austerity can earn salvation or merit God's love. Monasticism is not biblical in that it ignores our responsibility to go into all the world and preach the gospel. While we are not part of the world, we are in it, and the church was never intended to be isolated from people in need of Christ. Now, with all of that being said, let's take a look at the Gnostics and some of the things that they say. Now, for all their loving and kind ways, they do certainly like to infight, and they like to accuse each other in the most obscene ways. So perhaps this Art 1 is asking a sincere question. He's asking it to a liar, which is foolish of him, but still, we find that it makes the us versus them mentality, as all the problems are the cause of someone else. Most of the info is true, and the truth is being used against those people at the same time. Perhaps this relates to me not understanding how Hollywood and the elite can endorse people that write shows with the spirit of truth in mind. It seems that sometimes the lie can be used to find the truth. The reason you are confused is because you are listening to this liar, who will have you believe that everything Gnostic is Christian. The TV shows are showing you Gnosticism because it's controlled by the Masons, and they are Gnostics, and they want the rest of you to be Gnostics. This is why you can't reconcile the lie, because it's a lie. But anyway, this bunny then goes on to ask a question, which is not a question, it's actually an accusation. No, I'm a Leo, why? Lying to find the truth is something a Gemini would do. This is the most spiteful and deceitful response I've ever seen on this channel, and it is disgusting, but it's approved by the owner of the channel. And then this one, rather than telling Bunny to go and kill itself, it says it apologises with this complacent, it's almost like you're prostrating before her or him. They all think that this is a girl, it's a boy, it's a man, but for some reason it's decided to portray itself as a woman and takes all of this butthole licking narrative from Mac, even though it's a man. And then they all just argue amongst themselves about nothing. This one was shown how it's a Gnostic and didn't like it and wanted to join the shame parade against me. Well, now that it's been shown that it's on its own, it's come crawling back to the liar. It must have been too difficult to see the truth, so it decided to go back to the club that he was obviously kicked out of once before. But you people tell too many lies, and it will come back to haunt you. Believe me. It will.